Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for attending the Oracle Integration webinar. Thanks for joining our quarterly webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle Product Management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available at Oracle Video Hub, including presentation for download. In today's presentation, Neil Kominski will update us on the latest Oracle Integration February release. Good afternoon, Neil.
Hello, Jürgen. How are you? Well, I trust.
Yep, pretty well relaxed from holiday.
Good.
So what's happening? What's the new and exciting feature in
there's plenty of things. I'm looking forward to introducing. We have a very compelling 2302 release that we'll be discussing. We'll also be looking at some of the upcoming features from 2304 release as well. So plenty of action today. Thank you, Jürgen.
Cool. And with us is Ravi Pinto. Ravi, welcome to the webcast.
Thanks, Jürgen. How are you doing?
Thank you. You will support us with the Q&A.
That is right, Jürgen. Looking forward to it.
So if you have questions, please use the Q&A tool and we will all answer them. So Oracle Integration 3 is the latest release based on a microservice architecture, and you can see the most visible change based on the Redwood user interface. The service is now available in all data centers. Quick housekeeping, today's session is live, and this presentation is recorded. Please feel free to post your questions via the conference Q&A tool in the Zoom console. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides and an on-demand webcast will be posted at Oracle Video Hub. We will post announcement and links in the conference chat, and please complete the online survey at the end of the webinar. As we will present product information and roadmap details, please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please do tweet and blog about products and services which are available today. Today's agenda, followed by the latest announcement, Neil will highlight Oracle Integration, the latest release, including live demos. And I hope we see a lot of new functionality like projects and parallel processing. So let's get started. We are excited and humbled to share that Gartner has named Oracle Integration a leader and positioned highest in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Integration Platform Services. Thank you and congratulations to the whole community. We could not have done this without your partnership and support. For details, please visit the report, which is available at bit.ly/GartnerIPaaS. We would like to invite you to our next Customer Success webcast on April 12th. ORS, which is the Austrian radio and broadcast station, will present together with the partner Prime One a project where they implemented Oracle Integration to connect SaaS and drive a digital transformation project. It's an amazing integration, including an SAP connection and billing and revenue management from Oracle. So please join us April 12th for the next upcoming webcast. Oracle Integration is part of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure free trial program. You can build, test, and deploy Oracle Integration and connect your applications. The trial is valid for up to 30 days. Use the documentation and training material when you build your demo or proof of concept. The documentation and training material is available for Oracle Integration 3, including hands-on labs for different roles. So who are the experts who can help you with your customer projects? System integrators like Accenture implement 8 out of 10 Oracle integration projects, and you can choose a certified partner with references to replicate your success at Partner Finder. And Cloud Marketplace, you can find dedicated solutions for the Oracle Cloud. For example, the Avanco third-party adapters or the Flex Deploy solution to do DevOps for Oracle integration. Collaborate and ask your questions at Cloud Customer Connect. You can share your knowledge, you can engage with the experts, and you can network, submit innovations, and earn badges at Cloud Customer Connect. Today's webcast is recorded and will be published at Oracle Video Hub. Please subscribe to receive the latest updates. We will also post there the presentation, which requires you to log in. For regular updates, subscribe to our Oracle Integration newsletter. The quarterly updates from our team includes the latest product information, events, success stories, white papers, and upcoming trainings and events. With this short introduction, I would like to hand over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Welcome everybody to this quarterly webcast. The focus here is going to be the 2302 release of OIC and OPA. And as you can see here, okay, the usual safe harbor statement, Gartner. Jürgen has mentioned this. And again, it really is thanks to so many of you. We have thousands of OIC customers worldwide now. And as you can see, we are the leaders in the ability to execute. So top right there, you can see our position. And it really is due to you, our customers, and the reports that you give to Gartner. And of course, the way Gartner reviews our roadmap, our product, of course, and our very compelling roadmap. So without further ado, let's go on. So our roadmap is organized into themes. Now, these themes, like the OIC OPA 3 rollout. Now, as we're talking about OIC 3, everybody or most people are still on generation 2. So this rollout is 2 phases to it, you know, achieving parity so that we can then upgrade folks, and then the actual rollout to the Gen 2 customer base. So there's no problem with this, like there's not as if we're going to be upgrading you or forcing you to upgrade very quickly. We're looking at a period of maybe up to 18 months to get this actually done, to get everybody onto OIC 3. Another theme for us is hyper automation. Now, hyper automation is something that Gartner has highlighted, and I think we covered it in the last webcast. And here we saw that hyper automation is more than just integration. It's integration process. It's integrating via UI. It's integrating, like, which would refer to our RPA, our upcoming RPA offering, but also things like innovations, like integrations or processes triggered by chatbots, etc. And of course, the leveraging of artificial intelligence for things like intelligent document routing and so on. Another theme for us is, of course, SaaS enablement, because it is essentially so that most OIC customers are Oracle SaaS customers. So we're doing more and more to make it easier for SaaS teams to adopt OIC. Not just making the design time very intuitive and very function rich, but also the onboarding, provisioning of this for SaaS customers. Operations like keeping the lights on. So here we are talking about making sure that this is a hardened platform, robust platform, secure platform. And of course, very, very important is the functional innovations. As you can see with Gen 3 or OIC 3, as I should refer to it, we have a bi-monthly release cycle. So you are getting new features fast and furious from us. And most of these functional innovations are actually triggered by you customers. So it's customer requirements that are driving these. And if you have any ideas or any requirements that we don't seem to be covering in our roadmap, please let us know, and we can adapt our roadmap accordingly. Healthcare, as you know, Oracle acquired Cerner many months ago there. And of course, we are now the integration platform of choice for Cerner. And so we are doing an awful lot in respect of healthcare. For those folks who might have remembered the niche offering SOA Suite for healthcare, you can think that there are those healthcare specific protocols or document types like HL7, FHIR, MLLP, and so on. And the processing of those healthcare documents is a world of itself. So we will be releasing an offering in that space as well. So let's look at integration first of all. And of course, first thing that we look at, is the previous 2 releases. The previous 2 releases, 2210, 2212. We can see here we're just building up content in these boxes here because we've started with this new format just very, very recently. But for example, you see here in functional innovations, projects came, the first release of projects was in 2212. The first release of parallel actions was in 2212.1, using customer tenancy for emails, etc., etc. A calendar view of schedules, which again was driven by one of our large EMEA customers there. So giving you the ability to see in OIC which jobs are scheduled when, that you have a nice kind of Gantt chart style overview of what's going to be executing, and you can amend your schedules accordingly to avoid having too many starting at the same time, for example. So now we're going to go in, we're going to look at the plan of record. So this is what we're looking at for the February release and April and up to June. So one of the features of the in OIC 3 rollout you will see here is the availability of B2B. So B2B is a major component or first-class citizen of OIC Gen 2. It's now available in Gen 3. We have Gen 2 parity. In fact, we've got more than Gen 2 parity at the moment there. And I will be showing this to you later. Another component that's there is just there now is Visual Builder. So Visual Builder, again, a key component of OIC Gen 2, that is now available in OIC 3. You will see process provisioning here. This is the final tool in the tools kit, so to speak, the Gen 2 toolkit that we need to have in Gen 3. That is not yet there, but that is on our roadmap for within the next two releases. So at that point in time, and we're looking here now at 2306, which would be June timeframe, all of the components that you have in OIC Gen 2 Enterprise Edition will be available in OIC 3. You will also see here, next one here, are events. So for those folks who remember SOA Suite, and I'm sure there are many of you out there, you would remember EDN, the event delivery network that we had in SOA Suite. Essentially, events is very, very similar to that. With events, you can define your own payloads. You can have your own event payloads. For example, a new customer event would have a customer payload with fields such as customer name, email, contact, etc., etc. And then you will have the ability to publish events within OIC and subscribe to events. Now, we will be looking at that in a bit more detail later, but you can see immediately that this is a replacement for the pub sub pattern that we have in Gen 2. Now, there are not that many customers using it, but we do have some. And these events is just notching this up a level. And you will see that events will be a first-class citizen within OIC 3. And the release we're looking at for this is 2304 timeframe. Depending on that, of course, is the pub sub upgrade. So those OIC Gen 2 customers that are using pub sub pattern, once these events are available, they will be available then to upgrade to OIC 3. So that's the OIC 3 rollout. If we look at SaaS enablement, now in 2304, we're getting what's known as the Fusion Applications Event Monitor. Now this is for CX events and ERP events. Now CX event could be a new account created, new contact created, an ERP event, and I think within ERP we've about 170 business events that can be triggered, such as purchase order created, invoice created, etc. So the whole idea about these things here is, as you probably know already, in OIC today, you can have triggers based on these events. So you can drop the ERP adapter as your ERP connection as a trigger in your integration and subscribe to a business event such as purchase order created or something like that. This event monitor will appear within our observability or monitoring section of OIC. And what that'll actually just show you then is, okay, which events do I have from my connections? Which integrations are actually listening to those events, and how have those events been processed? So what we had beforehand is, yes, you could use your ERP adapter as a trigger and subscribe to a business event, but you had zero visibility into how those events were being taken up within OIC itself. So this is a very compelling addition to our monitoring toolkit that we're getting there with 2304. Now, if we look at the functional innovations, now one of the functional innovations that we'll be looking at again today is within OIC project deployment. So 2212 brought us OIC projects, and within the OIC, this was like the V1 of OIC projects. V2 is including the deployment. And we will be looking at that a bit later. But net, I can create deployments within my project. And these deployments can contain one or more integrations from my project. And of course, not just one or more integrations, but one or more, say, versions of those particular integrations. So we've got fine-grained deployment that we can do within OIC projects with 2302. You will also see the plus there, plus RBAC, resource-based access control. Now, this is something that will be coming in future releases, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Here we're looking at, having a project, and then the project administrator, which could be the person who created the project, deciding who has access to the project and what sort of access do they have. So you could well imagine I could have two different projects, one for my ERP integrations, one for my HCM integrations, and I could have different target groups of developers that have access to these two different projects. And as they say, never the twain shall meet. They have their own slice of OIC then. They see their HCM projects or they see their ERP projects. So this is something that an awful lot of folks or customers have been looking for. Because if you're developing in teams and you say, okay, some teams have some confidential connections we don't want the other team seeing, then you had to spin up a separate OIC environment for those folks. Now with projects, we will have that isolation that many customers require. Another thing that we're looking at here is the parallel action enhancements. Now, Jürgen mentioned parallel actions, and this is something that many of you folks from SOA Suite will remember, of course, with the flow-n construct. And within parallel actions, the 2212 release gave us the ability to have map and invoke actions in the parallel branches. Now with 2302, that has been augmented to include most of the actions that we have in OIC. So in other words, just enriching this parallel action functionality to ensure that you can do whatever really needs to be done there. Now, we'll just skip those B2B ones here. We can see the publish activity in an orchestration. This is related to, of course, these events I was talking about earlier. The subscribing to the event. So of course it's pub sub. So you'll have a publish action that you can drop into your integration. And then you will have a new integration pattern, subscribe to event, which you can then use to subscribe to that published event. Other things that we're seeing here, like configurable wait action. So within a scheduled job or asynchronous integrations, you could drop the wait action in there. Now, the wait action was usually configured there to say, wait 10 seconds, wait 2 minutes, or whatever you want. But many customers have the requirement to say, I want to have flexibility there. And I don't want to have to deactivate the integration, go in and change it, and then reactivate it just to update the number of seconds or minutes to wait. So this is something you will be able to configure outside of the design time canvas, so to speak. And you don't have to deactivate the integration to do so. Another interesting feature that'll be coming in 2304 is the configurable message size for batch jobs. So as you know, like this was usually 200 messages that you could, if you were reading in chunks. Now you'll be able to assign a value that makes sense for you. Because like some folks, if they're reading humongous files, 200 was probably too small. But now you can assign or you will be able to assign a size that will actually suit you. Now, another major feature that we're looking at in 2304, it's in the area of hyper automation here, is a native action for OCI functions. Now, many of you folks, I hope, are looking at OCI services because there's a plethora of them available, and they provide really excellent functionality that complements OIC. Be it OCI functions where you can have your more complex business logic that can't be expressed within OIC itself, or for event-driven systems using OCI streaming, or maybe for storing documents or other files in OCI object storage. Now, these are very compelling use cases for OCI services with OIC. Now, you can use them today, but of course, it's a separate REST connection that you have to define, and there's a certain overhead to actually doing this. So we want to simplify this, and the whole idea here is to say, how about adding new actions to your OIC palette that you can drag and drop these actions into your integration, such as the OCI functions. So you would drag and drop this action into your integration, and then it would show you a list of all of the functions that you have access to. You choose whatever function you want. Then it would automatically generate a mapper, so you could map into the parameters for that function. And of course, you can process that response within your integration as well. So just making it an awful lot easier to work with our OCI services. Now, again, 2304, we're seeing that OCI functions is going to be the first, but and then, of course, you can see here, OCI streaming will be coming afterwards, OCI object storage, and then depending on how we see the market developing there, we could add other ones such as OCI, AI services, etc. Now, within the operations, I won't go into too many of those ones there. The healthcare, just to advise you, we have HL7 schema and document editing. So essentially what we had in SOA Suite for healthcare, that's sort of something very, very similar, or very, very similar to what we have for B2B and OIC today. All this, but for the healthcare space. Now, so projects. So again, just talking about projects, simplified navigation, faster context switching, because of the fact that once you go into this project, you can create all of your integrations, connections, lookups, libraries within this project. You see, we're in the design view here. And if you create anything, it's created inline. So there's an awful lot less clicks to doing this stuff. And per default, all of the artifacts that you create within this project are only viewable within this project. I mentioned earlier that we're looking at bringing in the isolation concept here through RBAC and so on. We will also be looking going forward then also at sharing between projects. So if you had a common project with a load of interesting connections, you'd have the ability to share them with other projects. So of course you have your design here. Then you can see as well here, there's the deploy button. So within the deploy, you can create your deployments. We'll look at that in the video a bit later. And then of course, when these integrations are running, you can click on the observe button to actually be brought to our monitoring component, but monitoring specifically for this project. So it's really your view of OIC, so to speak. And as I say, when this is augmented with the RBAC functionality, that will be an enforced view as well. Okay, so in B2B, now let's have a look at B2B that you can actually just see what this is about. Now, this is something I'm showing now. Jürgen, I'm going to have to ask you, let me see now. This is always the case when I come out of thing here. Let me see. Do you see my screen here now? Do you?
Looks
my
good.
OIC screen? You do?
Yeah, looks good.
And it looks good. Okay, so within B2B, now this is going to be a very, very quick, I'll say a 5-minute overview of B2B. B2B, we start off, we have our host profile. That's us. So we are the center of the universe, so to speak. This is our host profile. Then we have our trading partners. Now, the trading partners, as you can see here, I've got 2 trading partners. Comiskey Inc. is one of our very, very important trading partners. And you can see that these trading partners have their B2B identifiers. Now, these B2B identifiers are very important because when you send documents, for example, a purchase order document in to our host here, so to speak, you have to identify yourself. And these are the sort of, your interchange ID would be one of the fields that you would use to identify yourself. And then if we look at the transports and agreements, we're saying, okay, how are you going to be sending us these purchase orders, for example? And we can see here, okay, Comiskey Inc. will send us via FTP. And then you can see which documents are coming in from Comiskey, and we see it's a purchase order. And you can see here, there's a back-end integration that I created that actually processes this purchase order. But what we actually get from, you can see here as well, I'll say there's our documents. So the document that I'm talking about here is this AA purchase order, which you will see here is a X12, EDIFACT X12 purchase order standard document here. But you can see here as well, you can create your own schemas if you've got variations of those documents, which is something that it seems that most EDI customers have. They don't use a standard, they have special fields for this, that, the other. So one of the things that our B2B component does for you, it is that it generates send and receive integrations for you. Now, this takes care of all of the B2B overhead. Now, B2B overhead could be things like, sending a functional acknowledgement. Now, it's part of the B2B contract, so to speak. You send me a purchase order, and the first thing I do is I send back an acknowledgement that I've received that purchase order. It's not saying that I'm going to fulfill it, but it's saying, okay, I've received it. And that's part of the B2B, this EDIFACT contract, so to speak. So all of this is generated for me by OIC. And all I've got to do is create the backend integration that actually does the canonical processing of that purchase order. And in my case, I'm just going to log the order number here. So very, very simple. Now, like all good cooks, I've got an EDIFACT document in here, and all I've got to do is start the integration to pull in that, which I do here, a receive, and I do run. Now, this document now is being processed. Now, the first thing, of course, that has to be checked is, who is this document from? I say, is it a valid document? Is it a valid sender? Are they sending it over the agreed protocol, etc., etc.? And of course, when that gets done, we can go in here and we can look at in observability, you will see here the B2B tracking. And within the B2B tracking, I see the wire messages. So these are the wire messages that just came in now. You can see here, and you can see this is what came in, and this is what I sent out, which is my acknowledgement here on this guy. And then you can see the business messages as well. So this is a different view of it. So the wire message and the business message, and you can see, okay, here was my interchange ID. I showed this to you earlier. So all of these things were valid. We can see the message logs here. We translated this from the EDI format, which is something that is a little bit strange. You might see this here. I don't have it here for you, but we changed that to our canonical XML, and that's what we use for processing, etc. And then if we go back up here to instances, we will see here that this thing has ran, and within here you will see goes into log the order number. We go in here, we see that, and all I wanted to say was we translate that document into our canonical XML format. We log the logger number, and the logger number is 83. The order number is 8310138. So very, very simple. Now, if I go in here, you will see if I say view edit this guy here, you will see that order number. It's in what's known as a particular segment, which is called BEG03, and it'll appear for us now in a second here. Says he waiting for this to appear. So it's just a very, very simple way of working with this. Now, I know many integration folks may be faced with looking at things like EDI and so on. So I'll just open it here for you here. And one of the things that I found very hard for me was to actually work out, what do all of these complex documents types mean? So what I did here was, for those folks who were just getting into it, or who maybe just need to demo it, I created a blog post here on the anatomy of a simple X12 P850 document. And I just go through, this is what the document looks like. You can see here, there's my order number in it's the third entry in this BEG segment here. There's my order number, and I go through all of these things here, telling you exactly what these things are. So if any folks have to do something quick or demo this with OIC B2B, then this might be a good starting point to work out, what does such a document look like, and what do these values actually mean? Okay, so I'll just go back in here now, and that's it. So I'll go back to first of all, let's go when I'm here, let's have a look at the parallel processing. So I think in the last webcast, I showed the parallel processing. Now the parallel processing then was limited to the map and invoke actions within the parallel flow. So let's go into it now. Let's see what we can do within it now. So I do run. So here we go. Click on run here. So you can see here, I've got the body here. Okay, it's an iBike. It's for Ireland. And let's go and see what happens here. And let's go into the observability. Here we see now, okay, here's the branch. And you can see that the rendering in the runtime is design time at runtime experience here. But you can see all of the things that I can include here: notification, JavaScript, logger, scope, switch, etc., etc. So really rich functionality within the parallel flow available now with the 23.02 release. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. This is always the big challenge now, actually switching back to this. Okay, so I've just got to do one thing here, which is display settings, swap presenter and view mode. Okay, so that should be a good again. So we've seen that with B2B, the OIC parallel action, we've gone through that as well. Now the OIC events, this is our pub sub in OIC 3. And as you can see here, I've just got some screenshots from our internal version here. You can see how events are a top level, a first level citizen within OIC 3, or will be. And when you define a new event, you give it a name. And as you can see in the middle here, we've got the details where you see the structure. So this is just a JSON description of your business event. So it's my purchase order number and product, etc., etc. You see two other tabs there for subscribers and publishers. So the whole idea here is you don't just define the event, you can go back in and say, okay, which integrations are actually subscribing to this and which integrations are actually publishing this event. And then, of course, down below here, you see the new action that you will have in OIC with 2304, where you can drag and drop this publish event. So when you drag that and drop that publish event, it shows you a list of all of the possible events. You choose whatever one you want, for example, the AA new order event, and then you will be able to map to these fields like the order number, product, etc. And then that event is published. On the final side of the graphic here, you see create integration. And there you see the third pattern, which is the event pattern. So this is really a subscribe. You'll have a subscribe trigger. And then, of course, when you're editing that or configuring that, you just select whichever event is required, such as the new order event. So this is coming soon. And this is very compelling addition to the OIC toolkit. And I'm really looking forward to leveraging that. Now, when we look at pre-builts and connectivity, we're talking about the adapters. We won't go into too much to the previous release because of time, but one of the things to note here about OIC is that we are always updating these adapters. There's always something happening with adapters, be it new adapters, be it additions to existing adapters and so on. And of course, additions to existing adapters are driven by what's happening in those apps themselves. If Salesforce brings out new functionality that's interesting from an integration perspective, we'll put that into the adapter, etc. So one of the new adapters was in there was the Symphony, or say the Unity, CX Unity adapter. You can see here things like S4 HANA adapter to support X509. And again, many of these enhancements are driven by concrete customer requests. Like functional innovations, we see in 2302 a new adapter, Netetsa adapter. Very soon, we're looking at getting a new adapter for OData. And there's a Snowflake adapter now supports internal stage, Sybase adapter supporting bulk import and pagination, etc., etc. So very, very interesting stuff as well. We've also updates to the Postgres SQL, Postgres database adapter. And Netezza adapter supporting store procedures and trigger capabilities. So that's something that we will be adding in the future as well there. So I think it's very, very important. Like, you will get access to these slides afterwards though, but again, the adapters are the bread and butter of OIC. They're the plumbing that helps us very quickly integrate application A with application B, focusing on the functional requirements as opposed to how do I technically get data out of A and how do I put that data into B. So again, we are very, very interested in your feedback on the adapters. Any enhancement requests that you have for adapters, please let us have them and we will process those. Now, something else that's you will see more and more of going forward is accelerators. Now, the title to the slide is Prebuilt Solutions, Recipes, and Accelerators. Now, think of recipes as, quick start examples, of how to, for a particular integration use case. For example, syncing your product inventory between, say, your front-end shop, Shopify, and NetSuite, for example. These are available. Like, I think we've 140 or so recipes and accelerators available in OIC today, and they're being augmented, from release to release. We're getting more and more of these. So think of the recipes there as best practice implementations and quick starts for particular integration use cases. The recipe is something that you can just use and abuse to your heart's content. There's no support. We don't provide any support on this for you. It's it's up to you. Now, if we look at the accelerators are something different. Now, for some folks who remember AIA in the dim and distant past, you might remember there were PIPs, specific PIPs or specific best practice integration implementations that were often seen as black box. And I think we started off with PIPs, first of all, in the telecom space. So maybe something to do with Siebel and that sort of stuff. But they were kind of a packaged solution. Now, the thing about the packaged solution is, nice saying black box, these were more like a white box. Like, you could actually see what's in there and you could change certain things. And our OIC accelerators are following the same sort of a model. So you will get this accelerator, and this accelerator will be supported by Oracle. And there are some areas or some actions within those integrations from the accelerator that you can edit or change to suit your, or modify to suit your particular needs. Now, one of the nice things about these things is, okay, this extensibility that you do within the accelerator will be upgrade secure, because these accelerators will be supported by Oracle. Now, many of them will be free. Some of them may be will be paid or whatever, but they are very, very useful in this respect as well, because when you consider the quickest integration to develop or to get up and running is one that's already there for me, and one that will be supported going forward. So this is a huge value add as well. And of course, our call to all of you integration developers is, if you have some use case that you need to implement, check first of all, is there a recipe there? And then more and more going forward, or is there, even better, is there an accelerator there for that? Okay, so, okay, oh God, this slide is just saying what I was talking about there, yeah. The key benefits, okay, for the pre-built, out of the box, on things like syncing customers between your ERP and your CRM, opportunity to cache, recruit to retire. So these can be from many, many different kind of verticals, so to speak. And we have, as I say, a rich set of these ones. Again, with the accelerators, the ability to extend them and customize them and have your extensions or your customizations being upgrade safe. This is a huge, huge value add there. And if we look at them there, where do these things fit in? You can see here that many of these guys are within the ERP cloud space. And of course, many of them are dealing with Salesforce. So like it could be, syncing your customers between ERP and Salesforce, or between NetSuite and Salesforce, or whatever. But as you say, there's a rich set of these here, and that rich set is just getting richer and richer with every release of OIC. So now when we look at process automation, now one of the things, again, I mentioned process automation should be a constituent part of OIC 3 with the 2306 release, i.e. with the June release. Today, you can get OPA standalone, and OPA standalone will work with OIC 3 perfectly, but it is a separate SKU, so to speak. But if you have to start off on a new project and you're net new to all of this, the combination of OPA standalone and OIC is very valid. And once OPA is in OIC from the June timeframe onwards, you can always import your applications from standalone to OPA and OIC. So if we look at the plan of record for process automation, now there are many features here that are very, very interesting for folks. Like I've got some customers who are talking to about moving from BPM Suite on-premise to OPA. And the features that we're looking at here, some of them weren't available or won't be available in Process in Gen 2, or PCS as it was known. Things like alter flow, which is very, very interesting to have the ability as a process owner to go in and alter the flow of this process, maybe expediting approvals or whatever. But this is a very, very useful functionality. Abstract and draft activities. This was very interesting as well within BPM Suite, where there were an awful lot of people would use maybe they just have document-only projects or processes. So some of your processes mightn't be implemented at all. It's just that you're documenting them to begin with. And of course, multi-start event support. Now, this is very important, of course. You could have a business process, approving orders or whatever, and that could be started via a REST API call, or it could be started via somebody entering, a call center person entering the order in a process form, for example. Now, we see also there nested forms. Now, nested forms are like reusable snippets within forms. So you could well imagine there may be some occasions where you have customer details which could be used in multiple forms. So you just define that once and then nest it in other forms as well there, just saving you time and effort there. Now, correlations is for async processing. Now, this was something typical that we had in BPM Suite, where you'd say, okay, I have a process, I'm approving a purchase order, and it takes a period of days to do that. And up until a certain approval step, that order could be changed or that order could be cancelled through what we called a mid-process receive. So this is what we're doing then via these correlations as well. Now, correlations could also be used for a main process calling sub-processes. So in other words, I call the sub-process and I don't have to wait. I can keep on processing, and at some stage I'll get a call back from that process. New recipes for HCM journeys and CX action plans. So this is one of the things about OPA. It's very much tied to HCM, CX with the HCM journeys. Now, within HCM, you'd have a journey, could be an onboarding journey for an employee, there could be an offboarding journey or whatever. And within CX, these sort of business flows are known as action plans. And OPA makes it very easy for it to be called from HCM. In other words, when you're configuring your HCM journey in HCM itself, you can easily invoke OPA from that. Other things that are very interesting coming up here now with 2302, okay, just design time usability improvements, expression editor, more comprehensive error messages within OPA, the decision model validations, etc., etc. So trying to catch errors as quickly as possible before you actually even go and try and run this thing. If at the design time we can catch it, that is much more effective. Now, one of the nice things that we're looking at as well, and I've got a couple of screenshots for you about this, is process analytics. Now, within OIC integration, you've seen, I think it was the previous webcast, we covered the observability or monitoring screens and the great things that we're doing there. And we are really bringing in great stuff there. And the question is, okay, what's OPA? What does our process automation have? Well, that'll be all in process analytics. And just wait and you'll see the next couple of slides to see what's actually happening there. Other things that we're looking at there are ability to clone a process within an application. So if you have a BPM process and you need something very, very similar, instead of having to just do reinvent a wheel, so to speak, just the ability to clone that and reuse it immediately then. Ability to roll back a process application to a previous snapshot. So this again is a huge improvement for developers. If you go in, you're developing and you make a couple of mistakes and you test it out and you say, hey, that didn't work, you can very quickly just roll back to a previous snapshot. For those of you folks who remember Oracle Service Bus, that was one of a great feature within that. Other things that we're bringing in here are things like business search APIs. So within OPA today and process today, you have this concept of business keys, but it's a bit limited. But what we're doing here with the business search APIs, allowing you to answer questions as, where's that process for order number 456? To answer those sort of things, to be able to drill into the process audit trails, not based on a business query. And bulk approval. So bulk approval also feature that's very, very useful for end users. The ability to go in and say, okay, I got these 20 orders and I know here they're all the same and they all adhere to our standards. I can just do a bulk approval of those and so on. So other things that we're looking at here in this is the adding Oracle Digital Assistant to the process you want to process. So you could well imagine you could have processes being kicked off by a chatbot, whether it's WhatsApp or maybe doing approvals via Slack or whatever. So this is a huge, huge value add here to this. And of course, process will have the out-of-the-box integration with the integrations to easily update your enterprise systems of record. So just to visualize this, you have you're ordering a new laptop over WhatsApp. That kicks off the process here. The process approves that laptop for you, and then an integration is invoked to actually start off the procurement process for that laptop. So just to show you, this is just some screenshots of mock-ups of what's been planned for this OPA process analytics. And these are the sort of things that folks are interested as well. And again, like in integration, we have an awful lot of these things as well. But the same sort of questions are being asked, where is my time being spent? Which integrations or which processes in this case are taken up, are my most popular, are taken up most of the time. So you can see this idea here, okay, the onboarding process is obviously very interesting here. And then this sort of thing, the status over time and the instance status, the average time to complete and all of this. So I think this is very, very compelling what we have here in OPA. And within OIC integration, we've many of these things as well here. And it's just kind of bringing these two up to speed, so to speak, so that, making administration and monitoring even easier. Okay, this is just OCI signature policy. And another thing that I'm just looking at here, we have here in the process application form UI, we have a widget called the file manager. And this file manager, which you can see here, will provide us with a file list. And that can be used to very quickly display files from UCM. So if you've got a process that's related to HCM or to ERP, you can very, very easily display the relevant files using this file manager control. And going forward, this will also support object storage and Oracle content management. So this is very, very easy then to actually, hive off documents from your process to object storage for long-term keeping. Many customers have requirements, maybe keep these documents for 7 years or whatever. The summary of this is, so there's blogs available in all of these key features. The documentation is out there. The documentation is always being updated. Just click on the what's new to see what's coming. And today is the 16th of March. And tomorrow is the 17th of March. And as you know, the 17th of March is the most important day in the calendar of this world, at least in the Irish world. So I wish you all a happy St. Patrick's Day. And with that, I hand it back to Jürgen and Ravi.
So to summarize the webcast, there are several resources that you can utilize. Visit the website at oracle.com/integration and get a free trial, 30 days of Oracle integration, which is part of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And you can use the labs as part of the documentation to build a demo or proof concept. We have a team blog at blogs.oracle.com/integration, and Neil has a wonderful blog with plenty of information and examples, and feel free to visit my partner blog. For regular updates, please subscribe to the newsletter. With that, Ravi, what kind of questions do we have? And if you have questions, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you, or you can post them in the Q&A. Ravi, what are the most exciting questions right now?
Yeah, I think most of the questions or a lot of questions have been, around the availability of Visual Builder and process in OIC 3. And as I've mentioned, I probably should let everybody know that Visual Builder should be available in the April release, and process should follow in the June release. So if there are any updates prior to that, we would certainly keep everyone updated about that. There have been a lot of questions on B2B and a lot of questions on OPA as well. So I think there is, we could do a session on OPA, probably something, with a demo where we show building of an application and then demoing it, the functionality. There were also questions about if Visual Builder can be used as the front end or the UI layer for OPA. So I think those were the interesting questions. Over to you, Jürgen.
Yes, thank you very much. So we had a couple of questions from Vikas. Vikas, are you here?
Yeah, I mean, those questions were answered, Jürgen, actually. However, I would like to ask about a feature to introduce auto retry or retry, especially in case of REST and SOAP adapter.
Vikas, you're speaking to the converted. That is something that we have on our roadmap. And for those folks who remember SOA Suite fault policies, just think of something very, very similar where we can externalize those retry rules from outside of the integrations, that you create policies. For example, if this particular error happens, retry 3 times, exponential back off of 2 or whatever. And then if those retries don't work, then just bubble it up to the scope fault handler or the global fault handler. So Vikas, it's on the way. The next quarterly webcast will be talking about that in depth.
All right, thanks, Neil.
It's a pleasure.
So because for the benefit of all, you also had a question around the OData format.
Yeah, so a question, it's related to OData basically. So Neil, you mentioned about OData, introducing OData adapter. Will this OData adapter support V2 and V4 version both, or only some certain specific version?
Well, I'm very happy that my colleague Madhav is on the panel from our adapters team. Madhav, is that something you could address? Because I hope you can.
Can you please repeat the question? Sorry, I'm answering one question here.
At present we have V2 and V4 support. So will will in OIC OData adapter will also support both version?
Yes, I have answered your question, I believe. Yes, we are going to support both V2, V4 and trigger, invoke, all kinds of stuff, you know.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, Madhav.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we had a question from Joseph regarding a free trial, where to get access to Oracle integration. The easiest is to get the Oracle free tier program, and you can then activate 30 days Oracle integration, and you just visit oracle.com/try it. Ravi, what other questions do we have which are still open?
So something that's close to your heart, Jürgen, there is definitely request for playground, OIC3 playground. So that is something that we have to work on.
Okay. There are multiple questions on Visual Builder Cloud Service, and we had a webcast last month, which is available on demand around Oracle Visual Builder. Neil, when will it be exactly available, part of Oracle integration?
Well, as Ravi says, definitely by 2304. And I think, Ravi, that's what the best thing that, that we can commit to here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the April release.
Yes. So you will definitely see it with the April release. And, you know, we are now nearly the end of March. Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. So April's not that far away.
So thank you very much for the team. Neil, thanks for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, Ravi, for answering all the questions. Here are the resources again, so make use of them. If you're a customer or a partner, you can find them also in the slides. And I would like to say thanks to the whole team. Paulo Mota is with us on the call, responsible for South America. Ravi Shaplani supporting the US. If you're based in Asia, it's Steve, and it's Ravi who is supporting India. For partner support and any kind of customer events and marketing activities, please reach out to myself. So thanks for attending today. The next quarterly webcast will be on June 15th, and you might want to join April 12th, the next customer success webcast, where we talk about the business benefits of Oracle integration. Thanks for attending.
And thanks very much, Jürgen, for all your sterling organization work. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.